Billionaire discovers black girl hidden without Christmas gift and unleashes a touching life change. Marcus Mitchell, a self-made billionaire, walked into the community center in that small Midwestern town, snowflakes collecting on his designer coat. It was Christmas Eve, and the air crackled with warm laughter, echoing joy-filled conversations and festive cheer. But amidst the hustle and bustle of the twinkling decorations and smiling faces, Marcus's eyes fell on a lone figure, a small girl sitting in the corner, her big eyes shimmering with tears. There she was, Maya. Just 10, her cheeks stained with the remnants of silent sobs, her spirit weighed down by the reality of her family's struggles. A single ornament hung in front of her, reflecting the colors of the room, while her world seemed colorless. Marcus felt a pull, an urgency that he couldn't ignore. He moved closer, heart racing not from the rush of corporate meetings he was used to, but from a deep sense of empathy. "Merry Christmas," he said softly, kneeling to meet her gaze. "Why aren't you enjoying the fun?" Maya shrugged, trying to mask her hurt behind a forced smile. "I'm just looking." "Looking at what?" A crease of worry formed in Marcus's brow, and he felt a tightening in his chest. "At the decorations. They look pretty," she responded, her voice barely a whisper. "But I don't think Santa is coming this year." That struck him, the innocence, the resignation in her words. Maya, the anchor for her single mother, who had recently lost her job, carried burdens far heavier than any child should. Marcus felt a surge of determination. He knew what it was like to chase success, yet here, amidst this holiday spirit, he realized he had lost sight of something far more important. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the gathering continued around them, Marcus and Maya began to talk. She shared dreams of becoming a veterinarian, her eyes lighting up with the possibilities that seemed so far out of reach. Marcus listened, captivated. Here was a child who had every reason to give up, yet she held on to hope with both hands. Inspired, he devised a plan that grew stronger with each passing moment. What if he rallied the town? What if, together, they could create something special for Maya and others like her? He envisioned a fundraiser, inviting locals to contribute not just money, but support and resources. He wanted to confront the biases that kept this community divided between those who had and those who didn't. Yet, as his heart filled with determination, another thought crept in. Could he fix things with his own estranged daughter? Would he be able to change the course of their lives through this unexpected journey? The fundraiser day approached, and emotions ran high. Marcus felt excitement, but also dread. The clock ticked, each second echoing his hope and fear. Would they succeed? Would it be enough for Maya and her family? He stood at that pivotal moment, heart racing for more than just a Christmas miracle. It felt like the burden of his own past was about to collide with the hope of a brighter future. And just how far he would go to mend what was broken. Marcus arrived at the community center a few days after his conversation with Maya. The place buzzed with both excitement and nervous energy as people filled the space. He stepped in, taking a deep breath. Here was the setting for his vision, a fundraiser that would bridge gaps, a chance to bring warmth back into Maya's life and others who needed it. Tables lined the walls, covered with homemade treats, handcrafted gifts, and many smiling faces ready to support their community. Yet, doubt whispered in the back of Marcus's mind. Would they come together for an event like this? Would people open their hearts and wallets for those in need? Maya stood with her mother by the entrance, her eyes wide as she took in the scene. There was a nervous energy about her, but also a flicker of hope that her mother seemed to mirror. Marcus approached them, a smile on his face, though inside he felt a storm of anticipation. "Are you ready for this?" he asked Maya, kneeling to meet her level. She blinked, the weight of uncertainty apparent on her small face. "Will anyone really help us?" Marcus placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I believe they will. You just have to trust in the goodness of others." With a gentle nudge, he turned her towards the buzz of the event. As they walked in, the warmth enveloped them. Laughter spilled over as people chatted and exchanged hugs, the scent of baked goods wafting through the air. It was a comforting reminder of the holiday spirit, a spirit Marcus had nearly forgotten amidst his boardroom battles and endless meetings. The first couple of hours passed in a blur. Maya's mother, Sarah, got involved in selling treats, while Marcus took charge of the donations. He felt every dollar collected like an arrow piercing through the walls that separated them from a better life, especially for Maya. Then he heard it, the calling. Maya stood with wide eyes watching the children's performance on stage. A group of kids sang Christmas carols, their voices mingling beautifully in the air. His heart swelled. This was what the holidays should feel like. Together. "Enjoy? Do you want to join?" he asked Maya, sensing her longing. Maya's cheeks flushed, hesitation shadowing her features. "I can't sing," she whispered, looking at the stage like it was a distant, unreachable dream. "But you can be brave," Marcus encouraged, remembering her dreams of becoming a veterinarian. "You've already shown such strength." With a determined nod, Maya took a deep breath and climbed up to the stage. The lights flickered on her for just a moment, and she caught Marcus's gaze, emboldened by the supportive nod he offered. As she began to sing softly along, the crowd quieted and then began to cheer her on. Marcus felt an overwhelming surge of pride. In that moment, she was not just a silent observer, but a bright star shining through adversity. As the performance came to an end, the thunderous applause echoed in the room. Maya jumped off the stage, her face flushed with joy. "Did you see? They like me," she explained, laughter bubbling from her. "Yes. But it wasn't just that. What did you learn?" Marcus asked, sensing a shift in her spirit. Maya thought for a moment before responding. "That I can do things if I try, and if people care." As more donations streamed in, Marcus realized that his vision was unfolding not just for Maya, but for the entire community. Hearts were opening, walls were coming down. Yet beneath it all, he felt a gnawing pang of regret. Would this success mean anything if he couldn't bridge the gap with his own daughter too? He glanced at his phone, a message from her flashing across the screen. A hint of hope ignited in his heart as he turned back towards Maya, who continued to bask in the warmth of newfound confidence. "Let us make this a night to remember, okay?" he said to her. "Okay. But what if it leads to more?" she asked, her curiosity battling the skepticism that was still lodged deep within her heart. Marcus smiled. "That's the magic of hope. It often leads to surprises." As the event carried on, the bond between Marcus and Maya began to deepen, prompting other surprises along the way. But one remained unaddressed. Would Marcus take that final leap and reach out to his daughter? In the back of his mind, he couldn't shake off the thought, what if this was just the beginning? The sound of laughter and cheerful chatter filled the community center as the fundraiser continued to unfold into something remarkable. Marcus couldn't help but feel the energy wrapping around him, lifting him upward, just as it had Maya. Everyone here was contributing, in different ways, to a shared goal. Maya clutched his hand, her face aglow with excitement. "Look! There's more!" she squealed, tugging him towards a table overflowing with toys. Each one came with a tag, a name and a face attached to every gift, each child a story waiting to be told. Marcus felt a surge of joy watching her excitement, but it brought a bittersweet pang, remembering his own daughter, who had been so distant lately. "Maybe we should take this one for you," Marcus said, lifting a teddy bear adorned with a red scarf. Maya clasped it with both hands, her innocence shining through. "Can I really keep it?" she asked, her eyes wide, clearly caught in surprise that such generosity could happen. "Of course. It's for kids like you to enjoy," he replied, wanting to instill in her the belief that the world could be kind and nurturing. As they browsed through more donations, Maya spotted a little girl one, who looked just like her standing alone in the corner. Her hands clutched an empty candy bag, her eyes darting around at the cheerful crowd. Uncertainty hung on her tiny shoulders, creating an instant connection. "Can we go say hi?" Maya asked, her voice sincere yet slightly nervous, pulling Marcus towards the girl. "Absolutely," he encouraged, proud of her empathy. They approached, and Maya knelt beside her. "Hi, I'm Maya. What is your name?" The girl glanced up, her shyness melting away as she responded softly, "I'm Layla." "I love your dress," Maya said, instantly breaking the ice. "Do you want to join us?" As if sensing a new friendship in the making, Layla's face lit up. "Okay, can we get some candy first?" Maya laughed. "Yes. Let us find some." Marcus felt something shift inside of him, warmth expanding in his chest. This wasn't just about helping Maya anymore. It was about creating connections, building community, and moments of genuine joy. He could sense the unity growing in the crowd, and something deeper inside of him was awakening. He watched as the two girls hurried off in search of candy, their laughter ringing like music. As he observed, a familiar figure approached. It was Sarah, Maya's mother, her face radiant as she carried an armload of cookies. "Marcus, look at the response. We've raised more than I ever expected," she said, eyes wide with disbelief. "And Maya, she is blossoming right before my eyes." "Yeah, it's incredible," Marcus replied, unable to hide his smile. "She has a big heart. Just needed a little nudge, I guess." "Just like her mother," Sarah said with a soft chuckle. "You know, I think you're doing something special here. It feels different, it feels right." As Marcus looked around, he noticed the faces of people, some familiar and some not, all embracing this moment together. It was as if the struggles and hardships they endured were momentarily set aside, replaced by shared laughter and hope. Suddenly, a loud clap echoed from the stage. The organizer of the fundraiser was announcing a raffle. "Ladies and gentlemen, tickets are still available. Every dollar goes directly into helping families in need." Marcus felt a tug on his sleeve. He turned to see Maya and Layla standing with plastic cups full of candy, their hands sticky with sugar. "Can we go in for the raffle?" Maya asked, her eyes sparkling. "Definitely," he exclaimed. "Let us do it." As they moved toward the stage, he felt a gentle warmth in his chest, and a growing realization that for the first time in a long while, life felt right. But amidst the joy, doubt still lingered. How would he face his daughter now? The thought clung to him until a sudden commotion at the far end of the room caught his attention. A flurry of whispers, someone raising their hand, and then a familiar face stepped into view. What happens when your past and present collide unexpectedly? The excitement in the room shifted as Marcus's heart raced. It all came crashing down at that familiar sight. Standing just a few feet away, illuminated by the soft glow of the overhead lights, was his estranged ex-wife, Rachel. She looked different yet somehow the same, with her long hair pulled back into a neat bun, her expression a mix of surprise and trepidation. The laughter around him felt muffled as memories flooded back sweet snippets of their happier days, and the pain of their separation. "Maya," he called out, trying to soften the moment. He knew this could become complicated quickly. But Maya was already halfway to Rachel, her curiosity pulling her forward. "Mommy!" she shouted, making a beeline for Rachel's open arms. Marcus stood frozen, uncertainty swirling in his gut. His daughter pulled Rachel down to her level, and for a second, time stood still. The warmth of their embrace sparked an ache in Marcus's chest, a reminder of everything that had been lost. He observed the way Maya's small hands wrapped around Rachel's neck, the genuine joy in her eyes contrasting sharply against the memories of late-night arguments and broken dreams. "Maya, what a surprise to see you here!" Rachel exclaimed, her smile contagious. She glanced over at Marcus, her eyes flickering with questions unanswered, and there was a weight to the silence between them. "Rachel," he finally managed, voice thicker than he intended. "I didn't know you were coming." "I didn't expect it either," she started, her gaze shifting nervously, then settling back on Maya. "I just heard the fundraiser was happening. I thought it would be nice to see the two of you." Maya bounced back to Marcus, her candy-filled cup wobbling in her hands. "We're raising money for kids and families, Daddy. And I made a new friend," she said brightly, pointing to Layla, who was nervously clutching her own candy cup, watching the adults with wide eyes. A pang of pride mixed with anxiety welled up in Marcus. He looked at his daughter, so proud, vibrant, and effortlessly drawing connections between people. He then turned back to Rachel, searching for common ground that could bridge the rift between them. "That's great, Maya," he replied, keeping his tone light and encouraging. But Rachel's smile faltered for the briefest moment, her eyes drifting upward as she searched Marcus's face, reading everything he didn't say. There was still hurt, still tension, and yet the lines that separated them began to blur amidst their daughter's innocent excitement. "Can we stay together for the raffle?" Maya piped up suddenly, oblivious to the crackling tension in her parents' silence. Marcus felt his heart skip. The thought of sharing even a small moment with Rachel, something that felt normal, perhaps seemed terrifying yet enticing. "We should," Rachel said slowly, her voice tentative but firm. "Let us make it a family moment." Marcus bit the inside of his cheek, weighing the implications of their decision. They had both strayed so far from that ideal, but the world, this moment, offered hope. As they moved together toward the raffle booth, Marcus caught sight of Sarah out of the corner of his eye. She was watching, her expression an unreadable mix of encouragement and caution. With every step closer to Rachel, he wondered if old wounds could somehow begin to heal, if this entire fundraiser had somehow presented them with a chance. But just as they reached the booth, another loud clap echoed. The organizer smiled, holding up a special prize that caught everyone's attention, including Marcus's. He felt a rush of anticipation. This was a moment, the kind that could change everything. Suddenly, he felt the room shift again, but this time the shift wasn't from his past colliding with his present. It was something else. What was happening now that would test the fragile peace they were trying to forge? As they stood at the raffle booth, Marcus's heartbeat raced. The organizer's voice rang loud and clear, calling everyone's attention to a massive prize, a brand-new bicycle, glossy and vibrant. Laughter erupted among the children, a few already bouncing on their toes, while Maya's eyes widened in awe. "Daddy, can we win that?" she explained, her excitement infectious. Watching his daughter, Marcus felt a warmth blooming cautiously within him. Perhaps this moment was a step forward, a chance to erase the past, if only for a while. To create just a slice of fun. He glanced at Rachel. There was something alive in her eyes as she watched Maya. Before Marcus could respond to Maya, the organizer waved to get everyone's focus. "Okay, everyone. Let us get ready for the raffle. You'll each pick a ticket, and who knows? You might just take home that beautiful bike." Maya clapped her hands, a burst of pure joy. Rachel stepped a little closer, the barrier of their past starting to shake just a fraction, as they both knelt down to pick tickets with Maya. In that little moment, Marcus felt the weight on his chest ease slightly. They were a family again, just for tonight. He could almost forget the jagged pieces of their history. "Pick a lucky one, Maya," he cheered, smiling genuinely. Maya rummaged through the box, her small fingers dancing over the glossy tickets. In that easy way of hers, she pulled one out, holding it up like a trophy. "Got it!" she laughed, eyes sparkling. Rachel's gaze caught Marcus as for a fleeting moment, full of unspoken dialogue. They shared a knowing smile. It was a smile that said maybe they could find a way to connect, if only for the sake of their daughter. But just then, the heavy air shifted again, cold and sharp. Marcus noticed a commotion in the back of the room. A woman, her face pale and distressed, was pointing toward the entrance. The laughter quieted, and whispers began to swirl in the crowd. Children turned wide-eyed, leaving their excitement behind. "The police are here," someone murmured. "I heard it's about a missing child." Panic threaded through the room, like a needle, stitching misgivings into every corner. Marcus's stomach dropped. He glanced at Rachel. Fear mirrored in her expression, as they instinctively moved closer to Maya, who remained blissfully innocent of the growing tension. The organizer's voice boomed again, but it was shaky. "Everyone, please stay calm. We're just verifying a situation. Keep your children close." Rachel's hand instinctively found Maya's, gripping it tightly. Marcus felt an urge to shield them, to keep them safe amidst the uncertainty. He knew whatever was happening would threaten the fragile peace they were trying to cultivate tonight. Just then, the door flung open, and a uniformed officer stepped inside, scanning the crowd. His presence brought a chill that felt deeply personal to Marcus. What if they're looking for a child that's lost? Rachel wondered aloud, worry etched in her brow. Before Marcus could reply, a gasp echoed from the back of the room. The officer pointed, his voice ringing out authoritatively, "We need to find anyone who saw a girl matching this description." The room held its breath, electrified by fear and confusion. In that fleeting moment of tension, a wave of uncertainty broke over Marcus. Would tonight's fragile glimmer of hope shatter in the face of something far more serious? As questions swirled and rumors sparked, Marcus realized he was standing on the edge of two worlds, one where they might rediscover their bond, and the other dragging them back into unresolved pain. He glanced at Rachel, a question forming silently between them. Would they face this together, as a team, or would they retreat back to their separate lives? How could he protect what felt right, even now, when the shadows of past fears threatened to drown it all? The room was thick with palpable tension, as the officer continued to scan the crowd. In that moment, time felt suspended, every second stretching painfully long. Marcus felt a knot in his stomach tighten, a sense of dread coiling around his heart. He couldn't shake the feeling that his little girl was somehow caught in this turmoil. "Daddy?" Maya's innocent voice broke through, pulling him back to the present. She looked up at him, brows furrowed in confusion. "Why does that man look so serious?" Marcus forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "It's nothing, sweetheart. Just some grown-up stuff." He wanted to shield her from the world that felt so dark right now. He wanted to keep that vibrant light in her eyes shining bright, safe from the harshness of reality. Rachel's grip on Maya's hand tightened. She leaned closer to Marcus, her voice low but shaky. What if they're looking for a girl? What if her words trailed off, but the fear was there, crackling like static in the air? Before Marcus could gather his thoughts, a loud exclamation echoed from the back of the room. "There she is!" A woman burst through the crowd, her face a mask of panic and desperation. The eyes of the room shifted like a magnet, all drawn to the escalating situation that unfolded before them. "Wait, where?" Rachel breathed, a rush of anxiety flooding her words. She turned to Marcus, who felt his heart drum unevenly in his chest. Then he saw her, a little girl, maybe 6 or 7, standing alone by the edge of the throng. Her face was streaked with tears, and her small frame shook as she looked around, lost. The realization twisted something inside Marcus. "Someone is looking for her," he murmured to Rachel. For a brief second, he forgot about himself, about all the noise of their past, and focused completely on the girl's fear, remembering the innocence of his own daughter. Rachel nodded, her face pale. "We should help," she insisted, but Marcus hesitated, torn between action and panic. What if they couldn't? What if they were not enough? A few people began to move toward the girl, their demeanor mingling between concern and urgency. The officer caught sight of her too, rushing forward. "Stay close to your loved ones," he directed the crowd, his voice steady now. The air shimmered with a strange tension, a mix of hope and fear. Maya tugged at his sleeve, her eyes wide. "Daddy, I want to help." There was a fire in her voice, a pure instinct to help that left Marcus both proud and pained. Before he could respond, the officer reached the little girl, kneeling down to her level. "Hey there, sweetie," he said softly, a stark contrast to the weight that hung in the air. "Are you lost?" Marcus felt a lump in his throat as he watched the exchange. The girl nodded, her fingers trembling. The officer placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, while the other held his walkie-talkie, urgently calling for backup. Behind him, murmurs cascaded through the room. A wave of unity began to form. Strangers gathered in a collective drive to support this frightened child. Rachel turned to Marcus, her eyes shining with determination. "We can't just stand here. Let us go." There was a certainty in her voice, igniting something in him, a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. "Okay, let us do it," he agreed, feeling the heaviness lessen as they moved toward that lost little girl, their paths still thick but momentarily set aside for the call of compassion. As they approached, Marcus marveled at how, in the face of uncertainty, they could rise together. But just as they reached the girl, he felt the ground shift beneath him. Someone cried out again, this time with more urgency. A voice shattered through the murmurs. "I just got a text. It's happening again." "What does that mean?" Panic stirred in him once more. He turned to Rachel, uncertainty creeping back in. Were they about to step into a crisis bigger than they could handle? Marcus's heart raced as he processed the words that echoed through the room. "It's happening again." The tension solidified, thickening the air around them like fog. He exchanged a quick glance with Rachel, who looked equally lost but resolute. Whatever was happening, whatever was about to unfold, it felt monumental. The officer, still crouched beside the little girl, turned back at the sound of the cry. The moment hung in the air, heavy with expectation. Murmurs rippled through the gathered crowd, like waves crashing against the shore. People shifted uneasily, eyes darting around as if searching for the unknown. "Daddy!" Maya tugged at Marcus's shirt, her small voice cutting through the murmur. "What is going to happen?" He knelt down, forcing a calm he didn't feel. "It's all right, sweetheart. Just stay close to us." He wrapped an arm around her shoulder, pulling her protectively against him. He wanted to shield her from this uncertainty, but deep down, he knew that reality rarely adhered to their wishes. Rachel whispered, "We're right here. We can help. What do you want to do?" There was a fire in her eyes, a bravery that beckoned him forward. They had already made a choice to step out of their own fears and reach towards someone who needed them. Marcus nodded, inhaling sharply. "Let us get to that girl." They moved together, propelled by an instinct that felt both foreign and familiar. Strangers started to crowd closer to the officer and the child, drawn by a sense of collective purpose. As they got nearer, the chaos began to swell. The voice from behind emerged again, more insistent now. "Please, if anyone knows anything, speak up. We need to find her." Suddenly, the little girl gazed up, her teary eyes locking onto Marcus's. In that singular moment, he felt a rush of connection, as if they were sharing a silent understanding of fear and loss. Rachel nodded down to the girl, kneeling with the officer. "Sweetheart, let us help you find your family." "What is your name?" "Lucy," the girl whispered, her voice barely audible above the rising tide of anxiety. "Lucy," Rachel repeated softly, attempting to soothe the other's fear. "I'm Rachel, and this is Marcus and Maya. We're going to help you." Marcus watched as Maya's face lit up with empathy. "Lucy, you're brave. Don't worry, we'll find your mommy." But as Maya spoke, the prior urgency in the room flared. The sob of a woman broke through the gathering hum, her voice laced with sorrow. "I can't lose her again." Marcus's blood ran cold. What had they stumbled into? The unrelenting weight of high stakes bore down on him. Just as he began to lean toward Lucy, a figure stepped out from the back. It was a man in a dark coat, eyes scanning everyone, a fierce tension in his stance. The air shifted. People turned, uncertainty rising like a living thing. "Who are you looking for?" the stranger called, voice low but commanding. Marcus felt a surge of protectiveness. Who was this man, and what did he mean? He instinctively pulled Maya closer, but Rachel stepped forward, standing firm. "She is lost. We're helping her." The man advanced a step, gaze fixed on Lucy. "You don't understand, she is in danger." Marcus's heart stopped. Danger? What had they just walked into? Danger? He echoed out loud, as the panic gathered strength in his throat. "Get back." The officer barked at the man, holding Lucy tight. The atmosphere sparked with fear and confusion, a moment of truth teetering on the edge of chaos. In the crowd, whispers crescendoed into chaotic conversations, uncertainty sweeping like a wildfire. What was unraveling before them, and how far-reaching was this danger? Tomorrow would come, but at this moment, something entirely shifted in the world of their little gathering. How in the world would they make it out? The man in the dark coat moved closer, his eyes flickering with an unsettling intensity. The officer remained tense, muscles coiled, ready to react. The air crackled with fear. Marcus felt it heavy in his chest. What did he mean by danger? "Who are you?" the officer demanded, still protective over Lucy. "I don't have time for explanations," the man said urgently, his voice edged with desperation. "She needs to come with me. It's not safe here." "Safe?" Rachel's voice cut through the confusion. "What do you know about safety? You just appeared out of nowhere." Maya clutched Marcus's leg, her small fingers digging in as if seeking reassurance. He could feel her trembling. He bent down, whispering, "Hold on tight, okay? We'll figure this out. No matter what." The cries from the crowd intensified, a wave of emotions boiling over. Mothers called for their children, and the intensity of the situation sharpened with every heartbeat. "Stop!" the officer commanded as he stepped closer to the man. "You can't just take her. Not until we know what is going on. I swear to you, she is in danger," the man insisted, eyes darting around the crowd, as if searching for something or someone. "There is someone here looking for her, someone who won't stop until she has gone." "Gone?" Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of danger loomed over them? He exchanged glances with Rachel, their expressions reflecting the same question: should they trust him? Lucy, still nestled beside the officer, watched the exchange with wide, tear-filled eyes. "I want my mommy," she whimpered softly. "What do we do?" Rachel asked, the tremor in her voice sizzling with concern. "At this point, we can't stand still," Marcus said, feeling the weight of his decision pressing against his chest. "Lucy needs us. We need to be her voice." He could feel Maya nodding beside him, her small presence a source of strength even in this whirlwind of chaos. "Okay, then we'll help," Rachel said, her voice steady and fierce. But we do it together. We figure this out as a team. The man in the coat eyed them, as if weighing their resolve. If you're going to help her, we need to move quickly. There's no telling how long we have. Panic and adrenaline began to surge through Marcus's veins. Part of him wanted to flee, to shield Maya from whatever dark truth threatened to unveil itself. But another part, this wild, instinctual part, knew they had to act. "All right," Marcus said, his voice stronger now. "What do we need to do?" "Follow me." The man turned, glancing back over his shoulder, urging them onward. "We don't have much time." They began to push through the crowd, the chaos reverberating like a thunderstorm around them. Anxiety was palpable, an electric buzz filling the air. As they weaved through the throng, Marcus felt the cold sweat on his brow, and the warmth of Maya's small hand gripping as tightly. They finally emerged into a small clearing, the end of the crowd in sight. "We need to find a way to get Lucy out of here away from prying eyes," the man said, looking around. A strange rustling came from a nearby alley, setting off alarm bells in Marcus's mind. "What was that?" he asked, glancing toward Rachel and the man. The man's expression hardened, a sense of urgency flooding his features. "Get ready, they're coming." Panic shot through him as adrenaline coursed even faster in his veins. Who was coming? And more importantly, how could they possibly protect Lucy? Just as Marcus opened his mouth to ask, a figure emerged from the shadows, enveloped in darkness and intent. Stopped right there. His heart dropped. What now? How would they confront whatever threat loomed ahead? The figure stepped closer, and Marcus's heart raced like a drum, each thump echoing his desire to protect Lucy. He scanned the dark alley, but all he could see were shadows, flickering at the edges of his vision like ghosts waiting to be revealed. The crowd behind them seemed distant now, their anguished cries muffled by the tension thick in the air. "Who are you?" the man in the dark coat shouted, his voice sharp and commanding. The newcomer hesitated, sizing up the situation with eyes that glinted in the dim light. "I'm just here to help," the stranger said, hands raised slightly in a gesture of peace. The way he stood, though, made it hard for Marcus to believe him. "Help? Or harm?" Marcus blurted out, stepping protectively in front of Lucy and Maya. He could feel the two girls pressing against him, their tiny forms trembling. "Listen to me," the figure insisted, his tone urgent. "There's a threat coming for her, and we don't have time for games. If you care about her, you need to trust me right now." Rachel exchanged glances with Marcus. Her eyes darted to Lucy, who still clung tightly to the officer's side, vulnerable and scared. The weight of their decision felt heavier than ever. "Trust is earned, not just given," she murmured, her voice shaky but firm. The man in the dark coat nodded. "You're right. But we can talk while we run. We don't want to be caught here when they arrive." Before Marcus could respond, a flicker of movement from the shadows caught his eye. Panic flared again as a group of figures emerged, their faces obscured by hoods. "Get Lucy out of here," the man shouted, urgency pouring from his voice like a raging river. He gestured down the narrow alleyway, where the streetlights cast eerie light against the cobblestones, glistening like the last bit of hope they had. "Only if you come with us," Rachel called back, her hands gripping Lucy's arms, ready to lead them to safety. "I'll keep them away," the man said, stepping forward, brandishing something metallic that gleamed in his hand. "But you have to move. Trust me." Marcus felt the rush of panic turn into clarity. They had to do something, and they had to do it now. "Okay, let us go. We can't waste any more time." He grabbed Maya's hand, squeezing it tightly. "Just stick close to me, all right?" Her small nod reassured him, even if just a little. With Rachel leading the way and Lucy held protectively, they bolted down the alley, heart pounding in sync with footfalls racing against the concrete. The sound of chaos erupted behind them, as the figures, the ones who seemed intent on harm, shouted after them. Marcus glanced over his shoulder to see the man in the dark coat facing the oncoming figures, planting himself defiantly between the threat and the girls. "Go! Now!" he shouted, the fierceness in his voice echoing through the narrow passage. Fear clutched at Marcus, but as he propelled himself forward, some deeper instinct took over. They couldn't afford to look back now. They had to focus on the path ahead. Maya tugged on his arm, pointing towards a nearby door that seemed slightly ajar. "What about there?" Marcus's heart soared at the suggestion. "Yes. Let us go." They sprinted toward the door, every moment feeling like an eternity, the urgency high enough to taste copper in the air. As they reached the door, Marcus pushed it open and surged inside, the stale air hitting their faces like a wave. They stumbled into darkness, suddenly cut off from the outside world. But as Marcus turned, ready to usher the girls in, the echo of hurried footsteps reached his ears. "They weren't safe yet, Maya," he whispered urgently. "Stay close to me." But what would they find in this darkened space? And was it the sanctuary they desperately needed? The door slammed shut behind them with a thud, swallowing the chaos outside into muffled echoes. Inside the dim room, shadows danced against the walls, faint light filtering in through grime-covered windows. Marcus took a moment to catch his breath, feeling the rush of adrenaline ebb, but an unsettling weight pressed against his chest. His eyes darted to Rachel, who was kneeling beside Lucy. "Are you okay?" she asked, brushing Lucy's hair from her tear-streaked face. The little girl nodded, albeit shakily, her small hands instinctively reaching for Maya's. Maya, holding tight to her father's leg, exchanged a determined look with Lucy. "We're safe now," she whispered. The confidence in her voice pierced through the darkness, igniting a spark of hope in Marcus's heart. "We can't stay here long," Marcus said, his own voice laced with urgency. "We need a plan." He glanced around. They were in what appeared to be a storage room filled with forgotten boxes and discarded items. The air was thick with dust, and a faint smell of dampness clung to the cool surfaces. Suddenly, the distant sound of voices cut through the haze, rising in volume until it filled the space with tension. Marcus's breath caught. "They're looking for us," he muttered, moving closer to the door to press his ear against it. He could hear footsteps, frantic, searching. "We have to find a way out," Rachel whispered, the determination etched in her features. "There has to be another exit." She began rummaging through the boxes, her hands moving quickly, searching for anything useful. Marcus's heart raced as he scanned the room, eyes catching glimpses of potential escape routes. Behind some boxes, he noticed a small, grimy window, barely large enough for an adult but a perfect fit for children. "There," he pointed, hope surging. "We can use that." Maya's face lit up. "I can squeeze through," she declared, her fierce determination shining through. As they rallied around the window, Marcus glanced back towards Rachel and Lucy, feeling the urgency constricting. "Can you both help her up?" "Of course," Rachel replied, her voice firm. "Every second counts." Together, they hoisted Maya toward the window. She scrambled to fit through, a series of giggles and grunts accompanying her struggle. "Almost there," Marcus encouraged, his heart pounding with every shove and wiggle. Just then, the voices outside grew louder, their footsteps pacing ever closer, and an electric tension charged the air. Would they find them before they escaped? "Maya?" Rachel called softly, gripping Lucy to keep her calm. "You got this, you can do it." With one final push, Maya squeezed her upper body through the narrow opening, her legs dangling out the other side. "I'm through," she squeaked, her voice a mix of triumph and excitement. "Now what?" Marcus asked, urgency spilling into his words. "Help Lucy first," Maya shouted, excitement spilling over into a kind of laughter that felt liberating. "Right," he nodded. "Lucy, can you climb up next?" "Okay," she nodded, though her eyes shimmered with apprehension. With Rachel guiding her, Lucy approached the window, taking a deep breath. It felt surreal watching the little girl muster her courage, her small frame popping up like a flower blooming amongst the chaos. He could see Maya's tiny outstretched hands reaching down, encouraging Lucy to follow. Just as Lucy clambered up, the footsteps outside stopped abruptly. Heads turned towards the door, as Marcus felt a rush of panic course through him. He exchanged a pleading glance with Rachel. "We need to hurry," he urged. Using every ounce of energy, Marcus lifted Lucy, her eyes wide with fear but gleaming with determination as she slipped through the opening. "You did it," Maya beamed. But the moment was fleeting. They could hear the shouts now, clear and demanding, echoing just outside the door, sending a wave of dread through Marcus. "We need to get moving." But Rachel was still behind him, her gaze anchored to the door. "What if they find us? What if they get in? Trust me, we can't go back," Marcus urged, pulling her toward the window. But before he could reach for her, Rachel turned to face him. The weight of their past loomed shadowy and thick, but in this moment they knew. "Together," she said softly, and somehow he believed her. He didn't question it any longer. They climbed together, Marcus pushing Rachel forward. They needed every ounce of determination to break free from the burdens that had haunted them both. As they neared the window, another thud reverberated through the old door, shaking the room, and Marcus felt a cold chill run down his spine. They didn't have much time. "Now!" he shouted, lifting Rachel as she steadied herself. The moment felt electric. They exchanged quick glances, a silent agreement that this was their opportunity together. And with one last push, they both made it through. Rolling out into the cool night air, they stumbled onto the ground, painted blue by the moonlight. Marcus felt the weight lifting, the sky liberating as they embraced the airborne freedom of the night. They were out alive and united, shadows behind them now. "Maya? Lucy!" he called as they shook off the fear and began to move further away from the building. But the night wasn't finished yet. As they ran, hand in hand, the threat still lingered behind them, chasing the glimmers of hope but running into the unexpected power of unity, forged between them all. The bond they had created tonight surged forward, also anchoring them right back to that moment of realization. That hope is something to hold on to, even amidst darkness. "Maya!" Marcus shouted, urging them to move faster. "Stay close." Maya laughed, ringing clear and bright against the night air. "We're doing it, Daddy. We're safe." And in that fleeting moment of magic, even with everything lurking in the shadows, Marcus felt the warmth of hope wrapping around them all, binding them tightly against the uncertain future together as they pressed forward, ready to face whatever came next. This was their moment of transformation. Now, if you want more stories that pull at your heartstrings, don't you dare wait. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel, so you don't miss any of these exclusive tales. Hit that like button now. It's your way of feeding the algorithm to keep bringing you those stories that inspire. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this ending below. Let us know how it resonated with you. And for the love of hope, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends. Someone out there needs to see this transformation, and you have the power to make that happen. This is the moment to show your support, so don't wait not even one more second to share.